It's Wednesday. It's a couple minutes after 10. It's the 4th of May. Oh yeah, May the 4th. There's all those stupid Star Wars May the 4th be with you memes are out there. I'm a little scattered for some reason. Just within the last few minutes, I came out to the car, got in the car, set everything up, got ready to go, and then I sat there for what seemed like hours. It was just a couple minutes, but just kind of lost. Until it kind of hit me that I had drifted, and now I'm in the car and moving forward. I'm feeling really thirsty. I wish I would have brought something to drink with me. So my morning's been clear, but all of a sudden I am now feeling extremely unfocused, and even my vision, it feels like my eyes are partially closed, and like I'm gonna drift off, which is strange. So let's try and push through this real quick. Very powerful night of dreaming last night, dream state activity, and I really woke up with a kind of a sense of understanding of something that I'm not aware of. I understand it, but I don't know what it is. It's hard to comprehend. And since I've been awake and functioning, it seems like there's been some type of a shift. Another one of those mornings where my activities did not equate to the time. Which I've talked about before, as I've been in those situations before. I'm somewhat compulsive when it comes to clock time, even though one of the things that drives me absolutely crazy in this reality and in this existence is clock time. Don't wait or anything, just go around me, that's fine. You're a piece of shit fucking douchebag Prius. Anyway, so it's something that I monitor and I track, and it's a compulsion. I can't not do it. It's day in, day out, and because I follow certain routines compulsively as well, there's always an association of clock time with tasks. That's just part of my morning. That's part of my routine. That's part of what gets me focused for the day and ready to go. And I have 6 alarms that I set, and I switch them through their routine and their cycle, and I get up at a specific time on the clock, and I go through several steps of the day, and with very few exceptions and maybe a difference of a few seconds, maybe 30 to 60 seconds, the tasks always equate to a specific amount of time every day. And today they did not, and I've had mornings like that. So get up at this time, look at my watch, go through this task. Before I start the next task or acknowledge completion of the first task, I check the time. And today it was, for the most part, it was on until I got done, and then it was not. So everything seemed to be flowing in cycle as it should be until I got to the end, and it was time to actually do the final steps before I leave the house. And I know it sounds like a lot of jibber jabber nonsense, but that's my morning. That's how my mind works. That's how I process. That's how I start my day. And at the point I was in my routine, I was indicates that there's something else going on. There's something different, something shifted that is affecting my perception of reality. And it does happen on occasion, not a lot. That's a subjective term as well, but enough to where I know the patterns and I'm aware that it does happen. So I'm trying to factor that in with the dreams that I had last night. The imagery alone in the dreams was strange. A lot of flying, which is always a pretty significant dream activity for me, especially as I've gotten older, because flying in my dreams is always, there's a certain amount of difficulty and there's a certain amount of doubt, which even in the dream, once I realize that I can levitate and fly, a certain amount of doubt steps in that says I shouldn't be able to do this, and then I have more difficulty with it. So as I've gotten older, the doubt seems to have been reduced, and it's easier for me to maintain
incoming call
the ability
from
to
Tony. Mobile, press Uconnect phone button to answer.
This is work, so I didn't take this. Hello?
Hi, buddy. I missed your call.
Hey, I wanted to talk to you about, remember Encanta I sent you to last week with the woman that says somebody was getting into her house?
Yeah.
She is claiming that somebody is still getting into her house, that her doors continue to be unlocked when she gets home. And she called yesterday. Long story short, I talked to the owner, and the owner wants her to feel safe, so she wants to go ahead and pay to have all the locks changed.
Okay.
And she would like for you, while you're there, to make sure that she's turning the lock in the right direction. Her suspicion, because none of it makes sense, that she insists that she's locking the doors every day and insists that she keeps coming home and they're unlocked. The owner thinks that maybe she's turning the lock the wrong way when she leaves, that she's actually turning it to the unlocked position and not the lock. So she would like to make sure that while you're there, you give her a demonstration on that. So I know that sounds weird, and I don't know.
No, it's not. We actually did that last time.
Okay.
I adjusted all the strike plates, everything, and had her lock them. And I checked all the windows. The only other option would be the overhead garage door. But I talked to her about unplugging it because it plugs in down where you could reach it.
Oh yeah.
Had them unplug it and then plug it in when they use it, because they don't park in there. It's full of their storage stuff.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, but I'll certainly go back and rekey it. But yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, she called and she was frantic, and I actually got a little short with her because I'm like, there's no explanation for this. I can't. There's nothing I can do for you. She was upset, and she wanted me to fix it. And I'm like, we've already sent the locksmith, and unless you gave somebody a key, there's no reason, unless you're not locking that door, for it to be unlocked when you get home. And nothing's being stolen, nothing's being moved around in her house. She's just coming home and finding her door unlocked, which to me says, well, you're not locking it. And she didn't like that answer, but she ended up calling the owner directly, and the owner's like, you know what, I agree, I think she's doing something wrong, whatever. She's like, but I want her to feel safe, so I'm willing to pay to have the locks completely changed to try and give her some peace of mind. So I was going to send you a work order, but then I got sidetracked and I just left the office, so I will send you an email with her contact information and everything on it, but that's the situation. I just wanted to verbally tell you what was going on before I sent that.
Sure, yeah, no problem. As long as everybody understands that I don't think that that's the issue, and as far as the locks go, because they replaced that lock themselves, and like you said, unless they gave keys out. But I don't want to be dealing with somebody who's a little bit off kilter and then somehow be blamed, because all I can do is what I can do, and that's rekey it and make sure everything works. And
yeah, I'm right there with you. The owner's on the same page, I'm on the same page, you're on the same page, and the only one that's not is the tenant. So the only other option the owner considered is, she's like, if this doesn't work, she's like, I will pay to have a security system installed as long as she pays for the monitoring. At least then she's got some peace of mind to know that if somebody is getting in the house, it's going to trigger an alarm or something like that. But
right, okay. All right, well, no problem. Then I'll just send it over, and I'll get in contact with her and get her squared away.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
call completed.
So, some of the unusual circumstances you deal with in property management. I don't think I need to elaborate on that situation anymore. I think anybody that's listening to that pretty much got the gist of what was going on. So powerful night last night. Again, the ability to fly in my dreams doesn't happen every night, and sometimes I go months without experiencing that, but it is something that is very common in my dreams, and it's always a very powerful event in my dream state, and it always leaves me with a certain feeling the next day, an indication of things unseen that are above and beyond the norm. So that was going on, but there was also a couple other different dreams and some strange imagery and combinations of past and present all jumbled into one, and some dangerous insects, and just all kinds of weird stuff. But there was one specific situation in the dream that's really left me with a really unusual feeling, and it's really lingered with me the entire day, entire morning. It's only 10:15 now, so I've only been up for 4 hours, but in addition, and it was part of this whole thing was part of one of the fob flying sequences, and the more I've grown and evolved, especially when this is more in the idea of flying in dreams. The more I've done that, the more when I was younger and I had dreams about flying, it happened, and I usually experienced that. And in the dream, I was trying to stay away from any kind of public view or any kind of witnesses, and this is more symbolic of my psychological state and evolution. But in the dreams when I was younger, and like I said, I've always had dreams that I've been able to fly, and whenever they've happened, there was a certain amount of fear, there was a certain amount of doubt of, well, one, I can't believe I'm doing this, and two, can I continue to do this? And I always tried to do it out of public sight, because to me, having an audience just increased my anxiety towards whether or not I could do this, and I didn't want to have any other additional factors weighing in on whether or not I could or my ability to maintain. So as long as I was out of public sight, if I tried and I failed, then nobody saw it, no embarrassment, and no sign of failure, which is, to me, I mean, that's one of the things that that motivates me in life right now. That one of the biggest motivating factors for me with anything in my life is I don't want to fail, I don't want to make mistakes, and I definitely, if by chance I do, I don't want anybody to know about it. And those are the things that motivate me to do the things that I do in the way that I do them, and that's just how I live. And this was very true in those circumstances. So as I've gotten older, in my dreams I've become more confident, which is more reflective of my life as well. I've become more confident in what I'm doing, and a human being able to levitate and fly is a far-fetched idea, and we can do it in our dreams, which I believe 100% that it's possible to do it. It's possible to manifest in real life. We just haven't reached that point as a whole, and I'm trying to push those limits, but that's a whole nother thing. So it's a far-fetched idea, and I don't remember where I was going with this now. I'm watching birds eat bugs out here and being completely distracted by it, and thinking about, I need to write this mileage down, because yesterday I forgot, because I was recording, and then I had to figure out how many miles that was in between stops and calculate it later. So a lot of different things going on here, and trying to keep my focus on one specific thing. So anyway, So anyway, as my confidence has grown in my dream state, and I've been able to achieve something as far-fetched as levitating and flying on a more regular basis, more consistent, and being able to maintain it even in the presence of other individuals. So my life has also, I've become more confident in talking about and expressing things that are far-fetched. Everything that I'm doing here it's outside of the norm of what people, it's more fantasy, science fiction, which I'm trying to help facilitate into a new reality. And I believe it's possible. I believe by pushing those limits, and I believe by creativity, imagination, and belief, we can manipulate this world far more than we do, and that is commonly accepted as possible. So it kind of goes hand in hand. As I've gotten older, I've become more confident in my life and in my dreams, and that's reflective in my ability to fly in my dreams. And it's also become more reflective in that in my dreams when I do fly, whereas when I was younger I didn't want anybody to see, because I didn't want anybody to see me if I failed, if I wasn't able to maintain it. Now I'm seeking out attention in my dreams, and that's again a psychological turn for me of being more confident and more positive about my approach to things that I think, one, I could fail at, and two, that I don't think would be commonly accepted or understood by the majority of the population. So and that was true last night too. I, for some reason, decided I can fly and was going to fly, and was using that as a mode of transportation through buildings and outside and whatever, from getting from point A to point B, and I was just and going. And I was making a point to be mentally aware that I can do this, and I want everybody to know that I can do this. I want to see the surprise and shock on their face when I raise up right next to them and dart across the room. And it's exhilarating. I mean, flying is, those dreams are always exciting no matter what. And then you add in that psychological factor of having an audience that's amazed at what you're doing, and it adds to that. So again, it's just all reflective of where I am at in my life, and being more confident in approaching and maintaining things that are not necessarily in everybody else's mundane life. So I go to work every morning and I deal with things like changing locks for someone that claims that their door keeps getting unlocked, and these are trivial little things, but these are the kind of things that for the most part we deal with on a daily basis. I mean, the circumstances are different, but that's the type of thing the entire world can relate to. That I go to work, I do a job, I do this, or I, whatever I do throughout the day, and it's not necessarily something that we would consider a loftier intent or pursuits. So again, it's always it's the day after having dreams like that is always an uplifting day for me. I always feel a little bit stronger mentally. I always feel a little bit more motivated to continue to chase after dreams and possibilities that I have yet to prove exist. I mean, it's all in theory, but that's where that is, and it's cool, and I feel cool about that right now. And but there was in doing all that, which I was flying in and out and in front of people, and a lot of people just didn't really take notice. We're just like, oh, okay, it was like an everyday thing. And again, it led more to the ability to understand perception and people's ability to delude themselves and really disregard things that they don't understand. And even if presented with something that would be considered spectacular, I don't think for the most part your mind would comprehend that, and you would create a vision, an illusion that explained it. So, and I spent a lot of time thinking about trying to understand the concept of perception and physical reality, and what a human being sees in contrast to what another human being sees, because you can be looking at the same thing and see something different, and in my mind, I've really taken that to some extremes as far as what the differences could be. You both acknowledge that you're looking at this, and that the words, the titles, the language to describe it is going to be exactly the same, but what the individual is seeing, what they're experiencing, to me it seems possible is completely different. If I go down that road, I'll be here forever. So we'll just leave that at that, because I want to just hit this last part of that dream. So there was doing all that, I was involved in some type of a class. It had something to do with real estate, it had something to do with my job, it had something to do with my continuing education and advancing myself. And I was doing that, and we were several classes into it, and I remember feeling during the first couple classes kind of isolated, separated from the other individuals that were in the class, not a lot in common, which again, very reflective of my life anyway. I just don't have a lot in common with people on a deeper level. I can find something to relate to pretty much anybody, which was what made me good in retail sales. It's what made me good as a server, as a bartender, because I could find pretty much anything to talk about with any individual. I could find at least one common factor in their life, and just speaking with them or visibly observing something, I could find one thing and be like, hey, and we could have a talking point. So, but on a deeper level, I don't really have any close friends. I've never really had any strong, close connections to anybody, because where I live, where I exist, is so far out from other people that, I mean, if you're watching this, you have an idea. I mean, this is me every day. This is just a method for me to be able to talk about what I want to talk about on a daily basis, and not have to worry about either scaring another individual away or boring somebody to death, which is, I guess, entirely possible as well. But so the dream was very much like that as well. The first class, two classes, this was like third or fourth class, and but we'd all become more comfortable as a group together. And even though I had never really had any substantial interaction with anybody in the group, as we were going to this class, I opened up a little bit, and so did the people that I was with, and we actually talked a little bit, and there was more of a connection, which was nice. It was nice to have a stronger interaction with other individuals. So that was kind of nice in the dream. And all the classes prior to that had been more formal and more some stuffy or constricted or something. And for some reason, because we had passed the first two classes, we were allowed to free up a little bit, so we were each allowed to wear more comfortable clothes and dress what we wanted. It wasn't so businesslike, and it was definitely much more free, and which I think led to more of the ability to be able to communicate with each other. So it was a good, uplifting dream. And plus, I flew into the room and was doing this in front of them, and some of them disregarded it, and some of them were like, oh, that's neat, but didn't really have the impact that I thought it would, even though I really thought it should. So we get to this, and for some reason, where it's in this huge complex, but it's indoor, outdoor, and there's meetings, and there's other companies and other groups and other things going on. So it's very, very active in this environment that we're in, that this dream is taking place in, and somehow we're outside, and it's the next part of this class we're going to be doing outside, and they've got this class set up in this area somewhere on the grounds, and there's a lot of different things going on in the landscape and the scenery in this dream that to me says that, all right, this is a very old building, this is a very old space that's been used for a long time, and there's basically kind of ruins or relics around from, and I'm not talking about from thousands of years ago, I'm talking about from 20, 30, 50, whatever. And so there's different areas that are kind of overgrown, that you can tell that there was, some kind of structure here, and this was being done here. But through all this, there was some kind of mechanical something that was there, and it was old. It definitely was not in use anymore, but it was still there, and it just struck me that it was there because it would cost too much, or it'd be too much work to remove it, and it was just the trouble involved with it to be able to remove it properly was going to be more than it was. So they were just basically working around it, and everything had evolved or developed around it. And it seemed to me like this was probably one of the oldest structures on there, and it had something to do with something that had since been upgraded or replaced, had something to do with either power or movement or something along those lines of creating energy or whatever. But in the time when that was used and was the common source, technology had evolved to the point where that was obsolete and it just wasn't used, but it was going to be too much to mess with to get it out of there. So everything else had been built up around it and evolved around it. But there was something that was there in where we had set up for our class that was somewhat of an obstruction, and somehow it was affiliated or associated with this whole mechanism. But it seemed like it was just there, and our instructor had called somebody, whoever, to can we get this moved out of the way or relocated so we can work or whatever right here. So we're sitting there and waiting for this. This truck pulls up, and I'm like, all right, this is weird. This truck's driving through the trees and stuff. I'm like, all right, well, it's gonna do this. And the instructor's like, yeah, just pull this out of here. And the guy's like, I don't know. He's like, this might be connected to this. It might do something. And I had to go to the bathroom or something. So they're trying to sort that all out. And I go to the bathroom and I come out and I see the truck's hooked up to this, and I can see that even after they've hooked the truck up to whatever this is, that it's connected to this whole thing. And if they try to remove that or pull it or do whatever, it's going to bring this whole thing down. And I mean, there's cables, high tension cables and power cables, and these things are anchored into the earth and anchored into things around it. And I'm like, if he does that, something bad is going to happen. I mean, if you pull this thing, it's like pulling out the bottom card of a house of cards. Everything's coming down. And there was a huge structure off to the side, which I hadn't really noticed before, and it looked like it was some type of maybe, to me it looked like a playground castle made out of concrete. But I'm looking at this, I'm seeing this truck hooked up to this thing, and I see as it's pulling where I see where it's connected, and I see where it's pulling on the structure itself, and everybody's still sitting there, and there's other things going around and with different groups in this whatever compound that we're in or building. And so I'm like, something's going to happen. Those cables are going to snap, and when they snap, they're going to hit somebody, or something's going to be broken, or this is dangerous. They are not thinking this through. There's going to be ramifications to this that are going to be catastrophic. I'm taking cover, so I'm running full speed, and then I start again remembering that I can fly, and then I'm in this structure cement play castle thing, and I'm like, I mean, it's open, but I've got enough cover that I'm like, all right, if anything breaks, snaps, explodes, whatever, I think I'm going to be safe from that. So I'm in there just as I hear clinking and clanging of things starting to snap and break, and all of a sudden there's like these two huge explosions, and I'm secured, and I know everybody's out there, and there was a certain amount of excitement because of what was going on, and knowing that something, the impact of what was going on, and that I wasn't going to be affected by it. I had been smart enough to take cover, but so all these pieces are falling from whatever exploded. There's pieces falling to the ground, and I can't see anything. Obviously I can hear some screaming and some yelling. Bottom line, nobody was hurt, but it was definitely terrifying to everybody, and everybody was realizing what could have happened after it was the fact. And they're like, "Did you run and hide?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I did." And they were like, "You could have told us." And I was like, "I'm sorry, last minute decision. I was on my own." So yeah, and then anyway, the dream was pretty much over after that. But there was so much going on there, and there's so many different things that were tied into that dream, from a feeling of emotions and symbolism of the imagery that was going on, that it's had an impact on me, and it left me with a residual feeling this morning that still I'm carrying around even 4 hours later. So a long rant about probably something that means nothing to anybody but myself, but it's important to me, and it's again, it's more of an indication of something else going on that is above and beyond what I see and deal with on my day-to-day routine. So, not sure what, but I feel intrigued and somewhat inspired by it, and that's that. time to do this move out and get on about my day of property management responsibilities. So this is a follow-up on my early recording. It's still Wednesday the 4th, about 12:30. I finished up at Starcrest, and then I went over to Wine Garden, did what I needed to do there, and a few things kind of developed or come up or crossed my mind, and just wanted to cover those. One, I feel extremely tired all of a sudden, like I could just pass out. Similar to what I was experiencing when I was getting ready to leave the office, but a little bit more intense. And I feel ravenous. I had breakfast this morning, had same portion size that I normally would, had some steak and eggs, and it was very satisfying, but I feel like now that I'm on the brink of madness from not eating. And it's weird when something as simple as that can have that much of an effect. I feel like I'm out of sorts. When I was thinking back over what I talked about this morning, and things that I didn't talk about, the things that were still on my mind, that I just didn't get around to talking about, and I don't know that I'm going to be able to get to those now either, but one of the things that hit me as I was thinking about my morning process and my processes of